Well, let me just find out who's in. Where's all the English people? Where's all the Poms? I know you're in, I just want to know where you're sitting. And where's all the Scottish people? Have you paid? Any Irish people here? Oh, bless you. And where's all the Aussies? Well, back home in Ireland, we get a lot of American tourists. And they all drive around in those big flash cars of theirs, you know. One pulled me over and he said, Paddy, come here, he said, how far is it to Killarney? I said, how did you know my name was Paddy? He said, well, I just guessed it. I said, well, you just guess how far it is to Killarney then. Because the Americans, you know, they can do everything. Like they can send a man to the moon and bring him back up. And on the last moon mission there was an Irish fella and a monkey on it. And when it landed on the moon, the monkey opened up his instructions. Push the stabilizer button and rig for silent running. Then prepare to monitor all personnel's heartbeats at 25 millisecond intervals. The Irish fellow opened up his instructions. Feed the monkey. But the idea, what they had to do is they had to collect all the moon rocks and bring them back to Earth for analysis, you know. So they put them all in a big sack and brought them back to Earth and sent them all off to all the universities all over the world. But the Irish fellas, they never sent any to the Americans. They got a nasty letter saying they never got any moon rocks. So the wee Irish fella, he went out into the paddock. He got a big bucket and he filled it up with cow manure. Some stones, a couple of house bricks, some more cow manure. Then it all set hard and sent it off to the Americans. They had it for 2 weeks, and he got a letter back saying that they'd done all the tests, and that they can prove without doubt that yes, the cow did jump over the moon. God bless you. You know, we got a gig last year in the big casino in Melbourne, you know. Huge big, it was a big footy gig. And all the big footy players were there, you know. They're all there, and Eddie McGuire was the MC. And Sam Newman was on the bill as well. And we're in what they call the green room. That's where all the performers go before we go on stage, you know. And Sam comes up to me and he says, Albert, he says, I believe you're over from Adelaide, he said, but you don't know anything about football over there. Well, the hairs on the back of my neck, not these ones. I says, we know more about football than you Victorians. He says, well, look, he says, we'll have a wee quiz, he said. He said, I'll give you $100, he said, if I can answer your question. He says, and you only have to give me $5. He says, if you can't answer mine. I said, well, that's $100. I said, that's great. So he tossed us, I went first. I said, right, I said, in the 1978 grand final, there was 2 teams. 2 brothers in each team, he said, there were twins. What was the score? And what was the name of the twins? And he's going, he says, 79, he says, that would have been cards and played, I call it, no, he said, that was 70. He said, I knew I had him when he said, was it the Righteous Brothers? I knew. He says, Albert, he says, I don't know. So I put my hand out and he gave me the $100. He said, who was it? I says, I don't know either. Here's your $5. I actually live in North Adelaide and I put my father in one of those retirement villages. The last time I went, I'll never forget it, I walked in the door and there was this woman there. Her nightdress was ripped to pieces. And she was running up the corridor shrieking her head off. And 20 feet behind her came 5 of the inmates. 5 of them, just like him. And they're chasing after, you know, with their tongues out, you know. And 10 feet behind them came a father. And he's carrying one of those big red fire buckets, you know, full of sand in each hand. You know, the big red ones. And he's running behind them like this. I said, what's going on, Father? I said, there's a woman there demented. And I said, how come you're 10 feet behind the other fellas? And you've got a big fire bucket in each hand. I said, what's the story? Oh, he says, the fire buckets, he said, that's my handicap. He said, I caught her last week. I go and visit him every Tuesday evening. And there'd always be a little man with his medals on. And he'd be sitting there in a wheelchair at the front door every Tuesday. And I would walk in and he'd say, hello, Albert, how you going? I said, well, how are you going? He said, oh, not to worry, Albert. It's nearly over now that I'm 80, he would say. He would say that all the time. And this is the story of his life. For nearly 60 years, I've been a cocky of droughts and fires and floods. I've lived through plenty on this country's dust and mud. I've seen my tears and blood. Yes, it's nearly over now. Now I'm 80. And for any length of time, I will hold it in my mind. And I never again will go down underground. It's a working man I am, and I live down underground. And I swear to God